All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It is our monthly learning series webinar. I am Brendan Bartik and excited to have all of you joining us for how to get K.R.O.N.C with your expenses and make sure that you're putting yourself in a position for 2023 to have the most profitable year you've ever had in your business. So with all of our courses, first I'd like to introduce my business partner and friend, Anna McKeel, who puts a lot of these beautiful things together, does the marketing, does the course creation with me, is the brains behind my shiny head, I guess is what you could say. So anything we should be telling everyone to make sure they maximize this wonderful experience?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the great introduction. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to be in the chat box throughout the presentation. So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be able to kind of facilitate any handouts that Brendan talks about throughout the presentation. And I always like to remind everyone that the session is being recorded and we will send out a copy of the recording. So if you miss something, don't worry, you'll have this presentation on replay. And yeah, let's get going because I know we've got a lot to cover today, Brendan.
I love it. Thank you. So first of all, some housekeeping things. You're going to want pen and paper, especially today because we're going to be doing some math. Woo! We love math. And so you're also going to need a calculator. So if that's your phone, that's awesome, but you're going to need to be able to process some numbers here because when we talk about profit, that usually requires us to play with some numbers, not too many. I made this as simple as I possibly can because for myself, the biggest challenge that I had early in my business is I was making a boatload of money. I worked really hard 7 days a week, going all out. And at one point got away from profit because it was just pure ego. You know, you wanted to have the number one units, the number one volume, the number one this. So hopefully learning from my mistakes, which is what 90% of these classes are from, is some shortcuts that will be able to teach you to set yourself up to make sure that you're focusing on the right thing, which is, and I would write this down first, I want to work smarter, not harder, right? That's all I try to think about as of late is don't worry about your ego. Don't worry about what people think. How can you work smarter and not harder so you can spend more time with your family, your charity, your friends, whatever it is that you're into, your puppies and cats and, you know, all that fun stuff, right? So that's what we're going to focus on. If you're able to come on video, I would greatly appreciate it because I get energy from seeing your faces. If you're driving or skiing or doing something dangerous, stay off of the video because it's just a distraction to all of us. But again, just pretend we're in a real classroom. I'm giving you an hour of my time. I would love to have an hour of your time as well. So if you can, I would appreciate it. If not, don't worry, not judging, just asking. All right, cool. With all that being said, 3 minutes into it, we're ready to rock and roll. For those that had the pleasure of teaching or met, my name is Brendan Bartik. I've been selling real estate, some form or fashion, for over 20 years. I've been a real estate assistant. I've owned a real estate brokerage, title companies, real estate teams. Our real estate team now, the Elite Home Partners, will do about 180 million in sales volume this year. Our goal is to have as many amazing partners have success as humanly possible. And now I spend my day coaching, training, and mentoring. So hopefully I'll be able to answer any of your questions and we're going to jump right into it. All right. So the first thing that we need to think about when we're talking about our business is that we have to understand the simple and scary truth that 87% of all real estate agents fail in the first 5 years from cash flow problems. Now, I really want to drive that home. You've probably heard the analogy, 50% fail in their first year. Well, they fail because they run out of money. That's why they're failing. It's not like they woke up and they were like, you know what? I just don't want to do this anymore. You fail in real estate because usually you don't have enough money to proceed, right? So that's a big thing. And so there's two ways to fix that. There is obviously do more production, or the production that I do, I need to maximize and make the most of it, okay? And we're going to focus on the latter today. We teach plenty of classes on how to go get business. This is how to make the money work for you in a simple process, okay? So the first thing you need to know on your pen and paper there, or on your piece of paper, is we've got to focus on profit instead of volume and units, okay? So when you set up your business goals, all of your real estate awards, everything is based upon units because It's a predictable number that you can say, okay, next year I'm going to sell 24 units, 50, 100, 300, 500. Volume is even more difficult to predict because you're going to say, you know what, I just really am going to sell 10 million in volume. Well, volume is the worst thing you can set for your goals because you can't really predict it as far as you can with units and strive to close an actual home. If you know the average of homes you're going to sell, then you should be able to know how many units you're going to need to be able to get there, and it really becomes a law of average. The number that no one talks about, though, enough is out of those units, how much am I going to make after it's all said and done in pure profit, meaning money that I'm going to put into my bank account, use to buy other businesses so I can grow wealth, put into my stock portfolio, buy investment properties. What is the actual number that I'm going to get when it's all said and done? So the first thing we have to do is figure out how to calculate profit. And you might think that's easy. You might be going like, well, after my expenses, what's left is profit. That's close. We're going to talk about some different things here. And we're also going to talk about my favorite number on earth, which is my profit margin percentage. Okay, so let's talk about this first. You're first going to start with revenue. So for those, I love doing this class this time of year. Unless you have a closing in the next 3 days, then just kind of forecast that in. But what I want you to do is start with first thinking about how much money did you bring in 2022? Now, if you're brand new joining us and you haven't even sold your first house, this is cool. We're going to start setting up what your profit margin should be for 2023, and that's totally fine. If you already know your numbers, then we're going to go back and take a look so we can actually have some goals to set in the future. So revenue in our world as real estate professionals means gross commission income, GCI. How much total money did I make from selling houses? So let's just make easy numbers and say that your average commission check that you receive is $10,000. If you sold 10 houses, that means you made $100,000 in gross revenue. Okay. So hopefully everyone has that number down. Now, if you're forecasting for 2023 here, and we're going to do both, you can go ahead and put what the number is that you think you're going to produce in the future. And if you haven't done our business planning clinic, Anna will post a link to that. You can either listen to it, watch the video, whatever you want. Okay. We're going to do one more in January and we'll post those details as well.
Hey, Brendan, before we jump to the next step, just to clarify, when we're talking revenue, are we talking about personal revenue or team revenue, or should I be doing both if I'm a team owner?
Okay, I'll answer that in 3 parts. So if you're an individual agent not on a team, you're calculating how much revenue you brought in personally. And then we're going to figure out what we call cost of sales, which are splits, and not only splits to your team, but splits to your brokerage and all that fun stuff. Then if you are a team owner or a business owner, you're going to be talking about complete total revenue that everyone generated. So if you have 10 team members and they all did $100,000, then you did $1 million in revenue. And then we're going to figure out cost of sales here in a second, meaning what you paid out in splits to them, meaning let's say that they're on a 70-30 or a 50-50 or whatever your structure is, or whatever, right? We're going to talk about that here in a second. And then total revenue, this depends on if you have multiple other businesses. Now, I separate this different. So for example, I have a title company and a coaching company. I don't put all of that revenue into one because those companies, I need to determine my individual profit margin for each one of those. They go to my collective net worth, right? My net income at the end of the day for taxes, but I measure them each separately. I hope that was close enough. Cool. All right. Excellent. So again, if you're an individual agent not on a team, how much did you make in gross commission income? If you're on a team, how much did you make in gross commission income? If you're a team owner, how much did your entire team make in gross commission income? And that should cover us for this example. So the next number you have to understand is cost of sales. Okay, so if you start with revenue, cost of sales is how much you paid in splits. Now, splits could mean to your team. That could mean to your brokerage. So I'll just do very simple. I know we have people from all over different companies joining us. So let's just say if Keller Williams has a $18,000 cap and a $3,000 royalty, then that would be included in your cost of sale. So every time you get your DA, if something's coming out of it, your distribution authorization, basically how much you're going to get paid, that would come out of it. If you're on a team, this would also include your split. So let's say like our team, you're on a 70-30 for your center of influence, right? Anybody that you bring in, you're on a 70-30. So one of your cost of sales would be 30% to the team in cost of sale, because you're having to pay that in order of a split. Now, here's where we're going to get some really interesting math going here is that's greatly going to affect your operating expense, because unlike maybe an individual agent, and not all the time, you're not going to have the same operating expenses as you see in our next line, because those things are done for you as far as a team goes. So marketing, the leads, the transaction management. So cost of sales is going to be relative. There's not a wrong answer to this. If you're an individual agent and you have higher operating expenses, lower cost of sales, cool. If you're on a team and you have higher cost of sales and lower operating expenses, cool. What we care about is that very end number at the very bottom called profit, okay? So remember, next to cost of sales, that is all splits and any cost I incurred to have that transaction happen that is not an operating expense. Gas, food, entertainment, closing gifts, how much I spent on postcard mailers, how much I spent on realtor.com leads. Those are operating expenses. Cool? No questions yet. Usually I get some questions here, but I hope that I got that explained. I've been trying to get that better. Cool. And then the leftover, after you subtract both of those costs, is how much you actually had in profit. Okay. Figure out what your 2022 profit number was, because we want to make sure that we know this number. Or if you're setting a goal for yourself for 2023, what you want your profit number to be. I'll also teach you a way to reverse engineer this, where you can start with the profit number and go backwards to figure out how much revenue you're going to need, then divide that revenue by average commission amount that you make, and now you know how many units you need to sell. Okay, go ahead, Anna. They're like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, Brendan. It just sounds like some mumbo jumbo. So go ahead.
So let's just kind of go back. Can you go over some examples of operating expenses one more time?
Yep. So again, let's say that I made $100,000 from selling houses in gross commission. That's every check that came in off the top. So if I just said, look, my average sales price is $500,000. I get $15,000 at 3% for every closed transaction I have. Then my total revenue is $15,000 per deal. Okay. If I multiply that times 10 deals, I make $150,000 in revenue. Then if I'm an individual agent, and I have a cap, or let's say I work at Compass or whatever company is, and you're on an 80-20 split, or you're at XYZ and they're this, or you could also be at a flat fee company. And again, like we said, your cost of sales could be very little, but your operating expenses are going to be a lot more. Okay. So what cost of sales is solely defined by how much you're paying for the cost of doing one transaction in either splits, transaction fee. I know some offices charge like $50 transaction fee, $75. Like HomeSmart, I think is $500 after a certain amount. And I'm not dogging any, I'm just saying from what I know, right? There's all these different models. They're all fine. It's just got to make sure it works for you. And are you getting the value you need for you to make it where you want to go? Okay, cool. So the cost of sales is what you pay the piper.
So referral fees would be included in cost of sale.
Yep, because you paid Jonathan a 25% referral fee for you to be able to do that transaction, because that came out of the cost. Exactly right. Yep, sorry.
So an operating expense would be my office bill.
Your office bill, your gas, your meals, all that fun stuff would be an operating expense. Okay. Then what we'll end up with is gross profit, and then you get to still pay Uncle Sam, and then you end up with net profit, right? So after all of that, right? That's why we got to learn how to sell hundreds of houses, because that's where you got to make all the money. Okay. Or sell a lot of luxury and live in Vail and sell very few of them, but still make a lot of money. It's up to you. No matter what, move away from Mississippi. If you live in Mississippi, get on a bus right now, get out. You're never going to make enough money. It's impossible. I've ran the numbers. Just kidding. If you're from Mississippi, I'm sorry. Okay. Moving on. All right. I think the average sales price there is like $140. Like you're screwed. You're just screwed. So, okay, let's get back to math. I told you this one was going to be the tough class, right? This isn't marketing and roses and puppy dog tails. This is math. All right, so we've got profit. Now we want to find our profit margin percentage. Again, the number you want to live by. Like if you want to think about one number that like floats above your head that you should decide whether you're doing good or not is how much profit margin do I make as a percentage? So the next numbers we're going to need in our diagram here is first, if you know you made X amount in profit last year, then you're going to divide that number by how much you made in revenue. And now you know what your profit margin percentage is. So I made $100,000 in profit after all splits, expenses, fun stuff. I made $250,000 in revenue. I'm going to take I'm going to take 100 divided by 250. That means I have a 40% profit margin. Okay, and we're going to talk about where you want to be and what the right numbers are and what makes sense. Cool. Everyone has their number, hopefully. All right. So now I'll stop here and I'll explain some categories of profit margin percentages. Okay. When you start out as a new agent, let's just say that you're individual agent or you're on a team, your profit margin percentage is going to be pretty high because you're not spending a lot of money to grow your business. As you start to grow your business and you start injecting capital, some of your profit margin percentage is probably too high for where you need to be to grow. Okay. Now, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the MREA, if you're not familiar, there's a whole guide that talks about where you should be at what deal count. There's a whole page or 2 pages dedicated to it. We'll quote those in another time, but feel free to read that book. Here's the easiest way to look at it is whether or not you're thinking about what's the right number to be in line with. What you're really trying to do is making sure that for the amount of effort you expend, are you making enough at the end of the day to make this make financial sense? And the hardest part about that equation is it has a ramp up time. So if you're a new agent, you're going, man, I'm just not making the kind of money I need to be. Well, you're new, right? So it's going to take, a year, 2 years to get that ramped up. What you're looking at as you get into bigger numbers, right? If you're a massive team, and let's say like, for example, a team that has over 50 agents, I've looked at the top 100 across the business. If you're at a 20% profit margin or higher, you're doing fantastic. 20% if you have a massive business. That means 80% is spent on cost, operating expenses, and cost of sales. 80%, okay? So in order to make those numbers work, think about a big team. If I need to sell 10 million in gross commission income, if I'm at a 20% profit margin, that means I'm netting $2 million. Would everyone be okay with that? I hope so. I hope netting 2 million is not a bad day at the office for you, but you have to build a system that's grossing in revenue 10 million in GCI. Okay. That's the big numbers there. All right. As you get into individual team agent, you've got to look at it and say, okay, as I'm working my way up through this, if I want to net 100,000 in profit, then with my splits, cost of sales, and my individual expenses. So maybe you're still paying for your gas. I mean, unless you're on a team that pays for gas, which I haven't seen yet, but maybe there is, right? You still got to pay for gas. You're still going to have some of these expenses. How much are you making after it's all said and done? Okay. So for a team agent or an individual agent, usually you're going to want to start out on a 50% profit margin. After it's all said and done, you should be walking away with 50% of your revenue. Now, some of you are already going, Brendan, I'm at an 80%. I'm at a 90%, meaning that you're getting 80 or 90% profit. Here's the problem. You're not spending enough on your business to grow. Okay. I know it seems almost counterintuitive, right? It's like, you can Dave Ramsey this thing as much as you want and pinch pennies. If you don't have a plan to put back into your business, it's very hard for it to grow and then start producing future business for you. So this is a balancing act. Okay. Now here's the last thing I want you to write down, especially for 2023. And this is the hardest lesson I had to learn. Once I have profit, I need to live off of 50% of what my profit is. I need to live off of 50% or less of what my profit is. This is where the challenge becomes. This is where you need to produce more to have the higher quality of life you want. I have some great friends on here that are ultra conservative. They live a very, very trim lifestyle, and they can live off of 50% of their profit very comfortably, and they're totally fine. Now, they're not out yachting in the south of France, and they're not doing some different things, right? But they're very conservative, and they're very happy with their lifestyle. I can't tell you what's going to make you happy. But if you make 10 grand a month, every expense you have, not business expenses, right? Netflix, your Mercedes payment, your whatever it is, needs to be 50%, so that other 50% we can save and invest. So in the future, you get to optionally work, not have to work. You want to be optionally employed. That's the goal for everyone here. I want to be optionally employed. Orlando, you had a question?
Yes, quick question. So from my understanding, we want to take, if we have 100%, we're taking 50% towards the business, expenses, et cetera. Then the other 50% is what we do for our personal. And out of that 50%, we take another 50% to live off of. And then the last 50% for investing and saving for future. Is that kind of the idea in dumbed down a little bit? I don't know.
Close, Orlando. So let's say that I make $10,000 a month, right? You make 120 grand a year, which in my world, I think is like bare minimum of you surviving in this country. And I hate to say that, but that's just how I see it, right? Like 120 grand a year is like, you have a life. Congrats, okay? So 10 grand a month. If I'm making 10K a month, 50% of that is what I need to live off of. So living expenses. The other 50%, and here I'm going to give you the rest of the math for this, and we have a video on this as well. Out of that 15%, I'm going to reinvest 10% to grow my business. Marketing, a suit coat, from some of you, a haircut, for some of you, some new shoes, whatever you got to do to make yourself more sellable, right? That was a joke, but you know what I mean? Postcard mailers, buy some internet leads if that's your jam, and that's a whole nother risky thing, but we'll talk about that. Whatever it is 10% is going to go back into building the company. Cool? Then the next two, right, is where you really want to make sure that you're very careful on, and you can divvy up the math how you want. 20% you're going to save for when the market drops 50% like it did this October here in Colorado. I mean, literally the market dropped 50% of sales from last October to this. So 50% of the deals went gone. So I want to make sure I save 20%. And then the other 20% I'm going to invest either in a business. I'm going to save up that 20% to buy my first rental property or my 15th one. So that's kind of the rule that I've guided by, is 10% back into my business, 20% for a rainy day, and 20% to go into buying businesses, investments, or my stock portfolio. And then 50% I live on. Back in the day, I was making a lot and I was living off of 105%, right? I couldn't spend it fast enough. And it was a lot of fun. Don't let me get you wrong. I enjoyed it. It was a blast, but it dried up very quickly because the anxiety, I had to work all the time. I got so tired of feeling like every single second I was having this anxiety attack about having to sell a house, listing appointment. With a few minor tweaks, we can make a path to become optionally employed faster than we think. Just depends on what you're willing to sacrifice now to not have to endure later. Cool? Ooh, budget, fun stuff. Yeah, super cool, Brennan. And everybody's like looking at their numbers and they're going, oh man, either I got to make a lot more or I got to move. One of the two things probably has happened. Or you got to sell the Tesla. But honestly, all joking aside, really think about those numbers. That's all this comes down to, you know? Do you have to have that truck, the coolest truck next to the other guy or gal? Do you have to go on that 4-week cruise, whatever it is? It's always in the back of your head. The little devil on your shoulder is going to say yes, but does it align with your investment goals in your future? That's tough. I wish it was easy. Temptation is everywhere. Cool. All right, next piece. Hopefully that didn't depress everyone enough. All right. Hopefully it excites you. Once you know the formula, then you just got to figure out how to make it work. All right. So profit margin percentage. You're a huge company. You should be around 20%. Successful, highly successful company, maybe not huge. You're going to be about 30 to 35. If you're an individual or an agent on a team, you want to be at 50 or more, having enough money though to still put back into the business to grow, right? That's kind of the easy guideline numbers there. All right. So let's look at the story of our three little agents. All right. As we get into K.R.O.N.C in this exercise, we've got Nelson on the far left here. He makes $250 in revenue and he has a 30% profit margin. That means he makes $75,000. Then we've got Sally Sumcronk. She's used these methods we're about to teach you. She makes $250 in revenue with a 40% profit margin. She makes about $100K in income. And then we've got Annie Allcronk. She's an all K.R.O.N.C star. She makes $250 in revenue at a 50% profit margin, and she's taking home $125,000 in income. Okay. So again, obviously this is just a visual to make you understand a 10% difference in profit margin can mean 25, 50, 75, 100, depending on what you're making, a massive difference. That's why that number is so exciting to focus on instead of units and volume. Okay. So let's get into K.R.O.N.C. Let's talk about the method here. And this has helped me in massive. I just did it with my mother-in-law as well, and she really enjoyed this experiment. Let's get to it. So with K.R.O.N.C, it's an acronym, of course, which we love. It's not about making cuts or limitations or a budget. It's about intelligently restructuring your expenses. So this isn't you just gotta, cut everything out and you can't have this and you can't have that. It's having a strategy during every single month to make sure you're making intelligent decisions to stay efficient, trim, and increase that profit margin percentage. Okay. So let's start with the 3 steps. First, you've got to set a calendar reminder for K.R.O.N.C. So we need to review this once a month for the same day at the same time to review. Okay. Now, I usually like to do this day or 2 after you generally receive your credit card billing statement. Now, a couple of things that we're going to have to set up here to be successful business people. You have to have a business account and a business credit card. If you don't worry, you don't have to jump off here. If you have to set that goal for the future, you can still do this if you're running your business through your personal account, but it would be a lot better to have it separate. So as we said with that last example, you can see what you're actually living on versus what your business, and some of us as agents kind of combine the both together, and that's dangerous, okay? Denise, did you have a question? Oh, okay, she's good. I maybe just popped the button. So I like to set this calendar 2 to 3 days after I receive my credit card bill for my business account. So for us, if that's on the 10th of the month for the previous month, so if you got your bill December 10th, you're going to review your credit card statement for the trailing 30 days, which was November. All right, excellent. So you need to have that booked in your calendar. And then you're going to use this simple K.R.O.N.C check down, make sure you're as streamlined and efficient as possible. Now, you can K.R.O.N.C your business and you can also K.R.O.N.C your personal. I highly recommend doing both. I just did my personal and shaved off, I think it was close to $600 a month in just items that I could do more efficiently. Okay. So let's talk about the first letter. So now that we've set the calendar invite, now that we've printed out our credit card billing statement, and I do recommend printing it out. I know some of you techie people like to download it into an Excel spreadsheet and do all this stuff. There is a feeling that you get from doing this with the printout every single month, and I'll show you why it's so critical here, because unlike your data sheet that can go away, your Excel spreadsheet, the actual bill sitting here is a reminder. Do you know why the credit card companies and the billing companies always ask for you to have paperless bills? You think they care about the environment? Do you really think Wells Fargo thinks that they're saving the environment by not sending you paper bills? No, what they're doing is having you not pay attention to your bill. You know how much harder it is to go into your account, review your entire billing statement digitally? Of course that's hard. You get a piece of mail, you hold it, you have a nail file, you open it up, it sits there and you look at your bill. So I love the environment. You could do more money saving it and then give back and adopt a snow owl than you can by not having printed statements, okay? This is your entire life and your family's future. You want to have a billing statement.
That's funny. I worked at Wells Fargo for 15 years.
Are they very environmental?
Negative.
Thank you. I was like, oh man, maybe I'm wrong. No, I wouldn't imagine so. And nothing wrong. I love Wells Fargo. But I'm just saying, yeah. But right, this is everything is designed for us not to pay attention. So we don't know how much we're being charged for a service fee. We don't know if we got juiced on an overdraft fee. We don't know all of these things because it just goes right by us, okay? All right, so now I've got my printed statement, or your digital if you're gonna do it that way. The first thing I'm gonna do is next to every line item I have, I'm going to go through and I'm going to go, what do I absolutely have to keep? What is on my billing statement that I have to keep no matter what, that can't be reorganized, cut, I'll tell you the other letters here in a second, that are absolutely critical to my business or my family living. So like milk, you would have to keep on your personal expenses. I would imagine if you need it, I don't know, maybe you could switch to water, I'm not sure. But you're probably gonna need, food at some point. In your business, you have to pay your MLS dues to have access to the MLS. This would be a keep, right? Like you're gonna have to have access to the MLS. There's nothing else you can do about it that I know of unless you're gonna borrow somebody else's MLS. Next to every line item on your billing statement, you're just gonna write a K next to the things that you feel that you cannot live without. Then you're going to go back through this statement and you're going to go through and put an R next to anything that you think you can replace. So something that could be substituted for something more affordable. Okay. So when we're thinking about something more affordable, like if I wanted to replace this, maybe it would be something like I'm doing 8.5 by 11 mailers. Could I replace those for postcards and still get the same effect for a third of the cost to my farm, right? Just that little difference. Would I still get the same effect? But could I maybe replace it with something that's a lot more cost effective than doing that, right? Here's the big one you're going to see on replace a lot of is, could I replace Starbucks with a coffee machine at my office, right? Could I do this and like get rid of that entire expense so I'm not paying $9 for coffee, I'm spending $1. And that's the easy one that we all know we're victims of, okay? And am I forgetting any other examples with replace?
Those were really good ones.
Okay, cool. Then the next one is offset, okay? So now what can be implemented to counteract my expenses? So I love offsetting. Here's the one that I offset a lot with is a lender partner, a title partner, a home inspector partner. So what I mean by offset is if I'm going to buy internet leads, can I partner with someone where we're both getting the benefit of that, but I'm offsetting the cost? So if I'm spending $5,000 on pay-per-click leads, can I find a lender to partner up with me that might pay $2,500? They still get the lead because they want, 90% of these leads are buyer leads. They're going to get a buyer out of it at some force. So they get to work the leads. I get to work the leads. When I do a deal with them, I'm going to give them that business. But instead of me spending $5,000, I just got my cost down to $2,500 because it's a win-win situation. When I do my monthly giveaway, right, which I hope all of you watch our 10, 25, 90 class, maybe Anna will post that video in there. Every 10th of the month we do a giveaway. Every 25th a business spotlight. Every 90 days a client appreciation event. Those can get expensive. If I can offset that cost with my home inspector and say, hey, buddy, ours is Lee Casberg. So if you need a great home inspector, Lee Casberg is phenomenal with Pillar to Post. We go, look, we want to do this great giveaway. I want to give away a barbecue grill for, January would kind of be funny. In spring, I want to give away a barbecue grill because everyone's going to start barbecuing. And I want to have everyone call in so I can get all these leads. If I promoted your picture on it along with mine, would you pay half or all of the cost of the grill? And he goes, damn, that sounds like a great idea. And you've given me so much business, Brendan, or you've given me your business. Plus, I'm going to get marketing from it. That's a great example of offsetting cost. You can do a lot more when you do it with others, as long as you're verifying to them or validating to them how they get a benefit from it. One last way to offset cost, go on things together. So if you're new to real estate and you're not on a team that provides these things, if you need to get the RedX or a Mojo dialer or Kohl's directory or any type of tech that's going to help you get phone numbers so you can generate leads, why don't you get it and share the cost with 2 to 3 other agents? Let's say Mojo's $150 a month per dialer. If you could team up and offset the cost and go, hey, Susie, why don't we both pay for this? First of all, Susie's probably never going to use it, or Dave's never going to use it. You're going to basically be getting the whole thing, but they're going to be like, oh yeah, I should be making those calls. They're going to pay $75. You're going to pay $75. You just got $150 dialer for $75. Cool. So offset. There's power in numbers, right? That's why you're seeing this evolution. A lot of real estate teams and different things is they're pooling their resources together to go, why are we all spending the same amount on every single thing when we can pool our resources together and combine? So you can see that in partnership groups. Gary Keller, one of my mentors, always says, look, you are going to have a lot more success when you do this with others. Going alone is a hard journey. So we got to pair up. We got to team up, especially when the sales are and the market are what they are now. All right. Now you're still got your paper out. So you wrote an O next to all those for offset. If you find anything on there. Now, the next thing is you're going to put down an N next to anything else that you think you can negotiate or restructure. This is a great time of year to do that because of the beginning of the year. Negotiate or restructure means that I could buy things in bulk. So if I am paying for certain services, let's say you pay for Boomtown or RedX or whatever it is, can I get a discount for buying the year in bulk if I know I'm going to use it in bulk and shave off 25 to 30%? Can I call them up today and say, you guys are just too expensive. I think I'm going to have to not sign up again for next year. And I guarantee you'll get a discount. They'll be like, well, before you go, what if we gave you 20% off for 2023? I'd be like, 20, if you could do 30, I might stick around. It's a 10-minute phone call to save you $400, $500, $700 a year.
And that really works with every company that you have loyalty with, right? Yes. You can take a list of every company you work with, whether it's CenturyLink, and your phone bill. If you've been with them 10 years, oftentimes, like Brendan was saying, they don't want to lose you as a customer. So they're willing to waive the additional increase in fees that we tend to see year over year as we stick with these companies. So like he said, it's worth the 10-minute conversation to see if there's any loyalty discounts in there as well.
Yeah, this is all just, it's going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of pain, but it's those $5, $10, $20 a month that just add up. You just think your profit margin percentage, it just, every time you do it, it goes ding, 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 right? It's just, which is awesome. Okay. So that's why we're saying this is all about restructuring and thinking smarter, not necessarily just going, I got to cut everything and have a sucky life. So negotiate. Okay. Cell phone, internet, anything that you possibly can. And then the last one, of course, because we are still going to have to look at this and go, are there things that I need to cut that I just am either not getting enough value out of, I'm not getting a return on my investment, ROI. I am not getting a return on my investment. If you're spending $1,000 a month on internet leads and you are not getting at least a 4 times return on that $1,000, why are you continuing to spend the money on it just to keep yourself busy and make them rich? So is there things that we need to cut? Do you need Hulu, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Disney? I say yes, but I'm addicted to television. No, I'm just kidding. I've got all my family members' logins, right? So every day, my mother-in-law, Lisa, when I'm watching her Hulu, it brings up every sad, depressing rom-com because it's set to her profile. And I have to flip through all that to find an adventure movie that I actually like. So you got to suffer, right? You hear what I'm saying, Kenneth? It's not easy. It's hard in the streets, but I'll deal with that to not have to pay $15 a month. So what can I cut that absolutely is not adding to my wealth program or is benefiting my business to help me grow?
I want to just add something to the cut. Oftentimes, cut it for 30 days and see if you miss it, right? Oftentimes when we get to cut, we start to negotiate with ourselves on this one. But I really like that. Or, it's just been what I've been doing for so many years. Cut it for 30 days, see if you miss it. If it's absolutely vital, you can always add it back in. If it's not, it was a great cut to make up.
I love it. Yeah. The 30-day cut challenge. I like it. I like it. Excellent. So now think about it. You have your billing statement. You have all these letters next to it. You're not done yet. I wish that was the only thing you have to do. After you do the exercise, and this is why I like the printed statement, it has to stay on your desk until you've done everything that you said you were going to do. So if you've got a letter next to it, you've got to make that happen. Then on your billing statement, you know you're done once you line through that expense, right? So now you've got a letter next to each. This is now becoming a worksheet. And now it's going to maybe take you an hour or so to go through and actually do the things. If you do this digitally, you click out of your Excel spreadsheet, tomorrow you're going to wake up, life's going to punch you in the face, and you're going to forget that you need to call and negotiate this thing, or you need to ask your lender this, or you need to cut this expense. And then next month you'll be going, hitting yourself in the face going, oh my God, I forgot about that for the entire month. Those suckers just got another $19 out of me, okay? So it's a working document that sits there until it's done. Eventually, you're going to be doing this so quickly and effectively, like there's not going to be much because you're going to be running really clean. The first one's going to be tough. By the second or third month, you're going to be so clean, you're going to be like, yep, keep, because I've got this, I have to have these things. Yep, nothing else is really on here. Oh, I've been spending money on that one magazine mailer because I wanted to be featured in XYZ magazine. Oh, I'm not seeing quite the return. I mean, I'm not getting much out of that. Maybe things like that. Then you really start to laser focus on the return on investment, not just the fluff. All right, so keep, replace, offset, negotiate, cut. If you have a whiteboard in front of you in your office, if you want to put this on a Microsoft piece of paper, Word paper, and print it out and tape it to your office wall or your workstation or your bathroom mirror or your refrigerator, you gotta have it visual to remember to do it. Just like the first of the year, you're gonna be all cronk excited leaving this webinar. February comes, you forget. Keep it visual, keep it active, okay? So here's what it looks like on that actual credit card statement. This is what it would look like an example, right? So on the far left, you've got your expenses. On a billing statement, you've got the cost. You're putting your letter next down to each one of it, and you're deciding on what to do with your action plan. So access to the MLS, $50 a month. I have to keep that to make my business be able to show houses, right? Starbucks, $25. Could I replace that and make coffee at home for 3 times a week? The answer we all know is yes. That is, of course, a yes. Internet leads. I'm spending $515. Could I offset that by launching my YouTube channel so I'm not dependent on internet leads for the rest of my life? Could I offset that by maybe making 10 more phone calls a month to my sphere so I don't have to take these leads that have a 3% conversion rate that are 99% buyer leads, right? Maybe that's something I can do. I'm going to have to take some responsibility. Yeah, well, you could do this negotiate or offset, right? With the cost of a Yeti cooler for your giveaway. You could call your lender and 50-50 partner with them. So that could be something under negotiate or offset. And then, of course, cut. Do I need my horoscope app? Do I actually need someone to tell me that my sun is in Aquarius or my stars are in Pluto? No, you don't need that, right? So go to your settings, go to your apps, and delete out all of this stupid stuff that you bought when you had a couple too many drinks in you and you were thinking about your ex-girlfriend. Or maybe you're thinking about your current girlfriend. You want to know if you're a good fit, whatever it is, right? You don't need that every month. That was a one-time weakness you don't have to deal with every month, okay? Let's take a second here and stop. Woo, that's a lot, right? So here's what we're going to do, and I just want to open this up to questions. We've got about 10 minutes left here or so. Does everyone on here know what their target profit margin percentage is for 2023? If not, I'm here for free. I'm here to help you out. Don't be shy. We should talk it through right now. We should figure it out because that's another number that you're going to want to write on your whiteboard or wherever it is, and then you're going to do a monthly assessment of it. So when you get to the end of January, if you made $10,000, and with your cost of sales and expenses was $5,000, then you're at a 50% profit margin. If you didn't sell a house in January, what's your profit margin? It's a no bueno. That's not good. So don't get discouraged though, right? I look at real estate in quarterly chunks. So if you haven't read the book 12-Week Year yet, I highly recommend reading the 12-Week Year. It takes everything into 12 weeks. If you start looking at your year in 12 weeks instead of 12 months, especially in real estate, you're going to want to set that 12-week profit margin goal because our business fluctuates, right? Close a $2 million deal. Don't close anything for a month. Maybe you close $300,000 places in February. The next month you sell one for 600, right? It fluctuates. Hopefully it doesn't fluctuate as you get consistency from putting enough money in your business to build your lead generation activities or buckets, but that's a different story. All right. So profit margin percentage. We've hopefully got that. Then lastly, and this is the big one, I want you to write on your paper, why am I doing this? Why does profit margin matter to me? So what's your why? And it sounds cheesy sometimes, but is it to make sure your kids go to a nice school? Is it to never fly coach again? Is it to donate 10%, out of that money that we just said, remember the 50% of living expenses? Out of that 50%, you might need to live on 40 because are you donating 10% to your charity and philanthropic endeavors, your church, your political, your whatever it is? This exercise is completely pointless if you don't know why you're doing it because quality of life can vary drastically based on some of these numbers. Cool. Well, excellent. Well, I am going to leave the last 10 minutes here open for questions. It doesn't have to be about K.R.O.N.C. It could be about your business. Just think about anything I can help you with going into 2023. If you are signing off, thank you for joining us and making the investment in growing your business and growing your empire. Think about it. You're growing a business empire. Know what your profit margin percentage is, review it, make sure you're focused on it, and make sure you're doing the right things to insulate your business, especially when times get tough. I'll give this story before I take questions, but this year, when we got hit with October, it was not pretty. I don't know. Did anybody else see a decrease in their business when October came? No? You guys are all ballers? Okay, well, I did. I watched 50% of the market crash in Colorado in a month. When we went to K.R.O.N.C, we had to make some hard decisions. That meant we had to say goodbye to people, which was a difficult decision. If you've ever had to lay off somebody in your career, it is the worst feeling that you can possibly have on earth, right? We had to significantly redesign our expenses to make sure that we could deliver the value that we needed to our clients and our team. But we had to get smarter. And the word that I think is critical during these times is we had to innovate, right? If you don't innovate right now and think about how to do things differently, if you think you're going to have the same results you did last year, doing the same things you did last year, I'm sad to tell you that's not going to happen. It's tough, but the better business people come out the other end. I want to see all of you here next year when we're having another webinar talking about all the glorious things we did and not that you're not here next year. So that's all. So I hope that didn't depress you anymore, but I don't know what else to say. Just putting the warning out there that expenses matter. Well, cool. Well, questions if there are any. I know the chat box, Anna, we've got some in there.
Yeah, we do. So Christine Sparks had a really great question. So she's a new team lead. She runs lean, but she's added new staff members and increased her lead flow to feed these new team members. She's wondering if she should reduce her profit margin next year as a ramp up and scaling year and review it every 6 months until the end of the year to make sure it stays profitable. Or when you're scaling up, when you're ramping up with new people and new expenses, do you just anticipate a lower profit margin in the years that you're scaling?
Ooh, this is such a great question. And Anna, you know, we talk about this all the time. We just did our end of year full day strategy sessions. We have whiteboards up, and I'll give a couple of examples here because it is unique to every single individual. One of the most successful real estate teams in Keller Williams, our company, is a team called the Loken team, Lance Loken. I think they're like number 5 or 6 in the country right now or something like that. And I remember meeting with Lance, and he was teaching a class, and it was his second year in real estate of owning a team and having a team structure. And they were doing, I want to say 450 transactions that year, second year of owning a team. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this all sounds pretty good. And I raise my hand because that's what I do. I go, so Lance, what's your profit margin percentage? And he goes, oh, we're not profitable yet. I go, I'm sorry? He goes, yeah, no, we won't be profitable until 3.5 years, maybe 4. I go, and you're on stage. Now, at the time, the reason I tell this story, my arrogance, I was like, this guy's an idiot, right? I was like, this makes no sense to me. I was like, what is he doing? He had a plan, though. By year 4, he would be making $1 million net by year 4. It took that structure to build up, to answer your question in a unique way, where I call it the Outback effect. All right. So this is what I call, if I was going to buy an Outback steak restaurant, and I love Outback. My wife hates it. She thinks I'm super stupid for going, but I love it so much. Yeah, it's just me. So you buy an Outback, you've got to buy the land, you have to build it, you have to staff it, you have to promote it. You're going to get money coming in, but you might not be profitable until your 3rd, maybe 4th year, because you got to pay for all of that expense that you did to build the business. Real estate is one of those bizarre industries where we go, I just started and I should be profitable. You're not a job. You're starting a new company. You're going, nope, I should get all the money first year, no problem. And so this is why I answer that question is about the 20%. It depends on your model. Are you building something for a large payoff that's going to run itself in the future that you can walk away from? Are you building something that you're going to be involved with for the next 5 to 10 years that every single day you're going to have to show up, otherwise money doesn't come in? Like we said, out of that 50%, you're not putting 20% into investment properties and you're not being smart with your money, right? So you don't have passive income coming in from these other sources. So to answer the question as best I can, if you're growing and scaling a team, it is a dangerous formula because there's so many factors that have to hit just right to make all of this work. And usually the number one factor in growing a team is you have to grow and scale. So you have to have enough agents pouring into a pool to cover the expenses that you're fronting to have enough profit left over for the business to deliver on what you want it to deliver on. So I wish I could tell you the exact percentage. You would have to look at your one. So I always, again, a book that you should love if anyone's starting a team or starting a company, or even if you're an individual agent, is Traction. So the book Traction, it really helps you understand how to build a business that's, 50 to 100 person business, if that's what you want. If you're an individual agent, of course, read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. That's going to be a massive tool. And just read at least one book a month. I mean, there's something that we can learn from everything. But going back to this to answer your question as best I can so I don't ramble, you would have to whiteboard it and design your model. Lance Loken came from the business sector. He was a CFO for a large corporation. So he spreadsheeted all of this and realized that, okay, I'm going to need X amount of ISAs, X amount of builder business, X amount of this, X amount of this. And when I have it all in place for the first 3 years, I'm going to lose about $200,000 a year to build all of this. But by that 3rd year, I've made a $600,000 investment that's going to start delivering $1 million plus every year from that year moving forward. Is his model right or wrong? For him, it's right. He's very happy. And now he's probably netting $6-7 million a year because that was his model that built it, right? The danger of an individual real estate agent is without ownership in companies, without a huge investment portfolio, you never get to stop working. That brings up the word, my favorite word, which is leverage. Well, it's profit and leverage. There's like a tie between, and then of course people, right? But profit and leverage. That was a joke. Can't joke on these things. People, profit, leverage. I hope that kind of answers the question. The answer becomes, it depends on your model. And if you need help modeling this out, there's a great business planning software that I highly recommend to every individual agent. It's called Live, L-I-V-E. Business planning software. It does all of this for you. And I think, and it's like $9 a month, which I know I just told you to cut all your expenses. This one actually helps you make money, right? But you got to have a plan. Right? You have to have a plan. Is it in 5 years, I'm going to own 5 investment properties that are each producing $500 in cash flow? Maybe that's your plan, because you don't want to manage people, because it is difficult and challenging and there's a lot of crying involved. Your investment property won't cry. You might cry when you're at it sometimes, but usually it's not going to cry. It's not going to show up late. It's not going to give you excuses. It's not going to take a lead that you spent $100 on and throw it in the trash because they didn't call it. It's not going to do any of those things. Depends on your plan. It depends on your model and what you enjoy. I hope that helped, Anna. I hope that helped.
That was great. Yeah, no. So I don't believe we have any other questions. I'm just scrolling through the chat box. If you do have any other questions, feel free to pop them in there. And yeah, I just want to personally say thank you so much for your time today. Happy New Year. And we host these webinars on a monthly basis. So we hope to see you back each and every month to incorporate a piece of what the team has learned over the last several decades into your business to make you even more successful than you are today.
Yeah, join our Facebook page, Brendan Bardick Real Estate Coaching. That's where we post a lot of these free resources. Everything we've used and we've learned, we either got from someone else or created. Join that community, Brendan Bardick Real Estate Coaching. Check out the YouTube channel, because every time you watch a video, I make 5 cents so I can live a quality lifestyle that I want to live. So I appreciate you watching those videos. And then we also have our podcast, which is Real Talk with Brendan Bardick. A lot of our sessions are recorded on there. Our script book, our dialogues, objection handlers, everything is on there. There should be some resources there. In worst case scenario, you get stuck, just call me. I'm here to help. Just let me know what I can do. All right, everyone. Have an amazing 2023. Be profit margin percentage minded and let nothing stop you. See you, everyone.